Indian culture will cover the salient aspects of art forms, literature, and architecture from ancient to modern times. So, I would suggest that you pick up the keywords given in the syllabus as they are and make your own notes. If we further decode it, what analysis should we draw from it? If we'll see the question wise analysis, why do you think that, in Indus Valley, the UPSC asks more questions on architecture than any other theme? Because this is the characteristic feature of Indus Valley civilization, town and urban planning. That's why questions would come from here. That's how the sites would be chosen, which has revealed what all architecture or town planning evidences do we get. In mains UPSC focuses on Buddhism, Jainism, Bhakti movement, architecture, literature, paintings. Many students also face problem in memorizing the timeline, and they also don't know how to do it, from where to do it. There are two strategies which I am suggesting to you to prepare the timeline. One is, see the index of your NCERTs. The index is mentioned in a timeline manner. You get a broad-based question about the nature of the Bhakti literature, cultural places, traditions, GI tags. They are important themes from the perspective of current affairs in culture. Hello dear aspirants. So today we are going to discuss on a very important subject, ancient Indian history, medieval Indian history and culture. How to prepare it. So these subjects, whether you talk about ancient Indian history, medieval or art and culture, seems like vast ocean to many of you. Where we can go right in these subjects? How can we simplify our understanding? What are those minimum sources which we can target in these subjects? So let me simplify the preparation for ancient, medieval and art and culture once and for all. So for any subject in the UPSC examination, the most important thing is to have clarity on the syllabus. So when it comes to prelims, the UPSC only mentions history of India and Indian national movement. Is it sufficient to understand that history of India includes ancient, medieval and art and culture? How do we base our understanding on the basis of previous year questions? That's how we have understood that, when it comes to prelims, we have to focus on ancient, medieval, art and culture, right? Now, what does the main syllabus say? Now, main syllabus for this subject is better, placed. How? Because we need, and we get the description of what all things would be covered in this topic. So when it comes to main syllabus, it gives you a keyword, Indian heritage and culture, right? What else do you get here? You get Indian culture will cover the salient aspects of art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. So another inference which we draw from here is that when it comes to art forms, when it comes to architecture, when it comes to literature, we have to understand all these topics from an evolutionary format. How have they evolved, right? But books are not written like that. Nowhere in your NCERT you get this whole evolutionary approach in an organic manner where it can be inferred or understood that, from ancient to modern times, this is how architecture has developed. So that is what is making this section tricky and challenging for the students, right? So I would suggest that you pick up the keywords given in the syllabus as they are and make your own notes, right? So let's say from ancient to medieval times to modern times, how the architecture has developed. So we'll talk about Harappan civilization, how the architecture was. We'll talk about how in Mauryan Empire the architecture was. We'll understand how in Gupta's architecture was, right? So like that, you have to make notes. Another understanding which you all need to have and which I want to provide you all is that despite of UPSC prescribing that there is this Indian heritage and culture, do we assume that in mains we only get questions on Indian culture? No. So we'll also have a closer look through the previous year questions that whether ancient Indian history questions are asked or not, whether medieval Indian history questions are asked or not, or does it only include culture, right? So these are the common complexities which is inherent in the syllabus of ancient, medieval, and art and culture from prelims and mains point of view. So if we'll understand, through the analysis, what is the weightage given to each section in prelims and mains, then only we will understand how much do we have to invest in this subject and in which way. So if we break the 10 years analysis, what information do we get? That there are almost 89 to 90 questions in the last 10 years when it comes to prelims from this section, right? Okay, that means 9 to 10 questions every year. When we decode it further subject-wise, we have ancient Indian questions 28, medieval Indian history questions 18, art and culture 43. That means more weightage is given to art and culture than medieval and ancient. And among the ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history, there's always some or the other competition. Some year they increase or give more number of questions in ancient, and in some years they ask more number of questions in medieval, right? If we further decode it, what analysis should we draw from it? If we'll see the question-wise analysis, there have been years where there have been no question asked in ancient Indian history. There have been years where there has been no question asked in medieval. That makes it challenging. That makes this subject unpredictable in the examination, which makes it more fearful among the students, right? So what next all you should do? That means you should prepare at least basic themes, some macro micro themes you should identify in each subject to have a very foolproof and soundproof sailing to ace the prelims examination. So what are those common themes on which you still can base your knowledge and understanding and practice in prelims examination? So when it comes to ancient Indian history, yes, definitely there are some themes which you can focus more. And these are Indus Valley civilization, and all the more it has come in the news often in the last 1 or 2 years. That makes it more relevant also. You have Vedic period, you have questions in mains also of late from this section, and you have question in your prelims also, right? Mauryan Empire is the first ancient empire in India, right? So that makes it all the more relevant, right? Ashoka's rock edicts are very important. Gupta Empire is another significant dynasty on whom UPSC asks questions more frequently, right? If we bifurcate the micro themes in ancient Indian history, what all elements do you have to focus? So when it comes to Indus Valley civilization, you have architecture understanding. Why? Why do you think that, in Indus Valley, the UPSC asks more questions on architecture than any other theme? Because this is the characteristic feature of Indus Valley civilization. Town and urban planning. That's why questions would come from here. That's how the sites would be chosen, which has revealed what all architecture or town planning evidences do we get, right? Next element, trade. Because they were urban, because they focused more on business, trade sites also become important, right? Obviously, when you're doing Indus Valley civilization, how the society was, how the religion was, is again another understanding which they are checking. So these are some cliche themes which you should prepare. Similarly, when you talk about Mauryas or Ashoka, as I told you, rock edicts is a very important theme, right? Similarly, King Ashok and his names on the inscription. See, students, it is very important that you understand the nature of the subject. The nature of history is that on the basis of sources and evidence which we have received, we are, making the understanding more clear, right? Until the time you don't understand and know from where did we get the information. So that means rock edicts were an important source of information. The inscriptions which bear the name of Ashok and has written something about his military exploits or political exploits become important. That's why even the source of history, like inscriptions, rock edicts, become important, right? Another thing which you need to understand is when we talk about Mauryas or any other significant empire like Guptas, you need to understand the nature of the ruler or the rule. So, for example, if I say that Guptas had a Vaishya origin, which is a business or which focused on business, right? Merchant communities. So that means that is why they will issue number of gold coins. They will give more importance to coins. That's how you have to relate things up. Why in certain dynasty certain themes are to be emphasized? Please base your knowledge and understanding on some characteristic features. Try to find that logic the way I'm telling you in reading history, and it will become very easy for you to understand. Similarly, there is another aspect which UPSC is focusing, and that is significant places. Now again, why this micro theme is emphasized by UPSC? Now, these places have again given us evidences. These places either bear any temple, these places either have given us, evidence with respect to coinage history, right? So that's why the significant places, architecture, evidences which we have found out, inscriptions, pillar inscriptions, they become important here, right? Questions, how do they come? What kind of places they ask? Either the famous places like these, which have been capitals, which have been, converted into very important pilgrimage site or religious center. They can ask the present state. They can ask you the nature of the site, whether it was a Shaivite cave shrine, whether it was a Buddhist cave shrine, whether it was a Jain cave shrine, right? Similarly, this is how you have to understand with respect to significant places when it comes to ancient Indian history. The significant places are also emphasized in your medieval Indian history section. But before we understand that, let's understand, are there any recurrent themes in medieval Indian history as well or not? There are 4 or 5 themes on which UPSC asks questions almost every year. And which are they? Delhi Sultanate, Bhakti Sufi movement. Regional kingdoms have been again emphasized more by UPSC in medieval Indian history, whether it is Vijayanagar, whether it is Hoysalas, whether they are Kakatiyas, Imperial Cholas, right? So there are regional kingdoms which are emphasized. Then you have Mughal Empire, right? Now, when it comes to medieval Indian history section, you have significant places as well as there are certain terms which have been picked up from both ancient and medieval from different dynasties. So let's understand again the way we did in ancient Indian history. What and pattern do UPSC follow and what all themes you have to focus in each of the recurrent themes which have been picked up by UPSC. Now, when it comes to Delhi Sultanate, right, the focus area would be invasions. Whether Mongols have invaded during this time period or not, which Delhi Sultanate ruler or sultan was there at that point of time, because that was a very fragile time period, very vulnerable, politically unstable. That's why invasions happened a lot. इसीलिए वो questions इससे ज़्यादा पूछते हैं. Then S&T, technological changes, irrigation works, right? Architecture, all becomes very important themes in Delhi Sultanate time period. Similarly, when you talk about Mughals, again, they focused on architecture, paintings. So every dynasty has some peculiar thing in them which becomes their landmark contribution, right? Among the regional kingdoms, Vijayanagar has been emphasized a lot. Of late, in 2025, there has been a kingdom on Imperial Cholas. There have been questions on Kakatiyas also. So this is how you should prepare, right? Another, new development which we are seeing in medieval Indian history, or let's say from ancient to medieval, there has been a transition period, right? So what all regional kingdoms were prevalent from ancient to medieval times when it comes to like post Harsha ke baad, which all dynasties came, right, which led to the rise of medieval times, is what UPSC asks. Jaise for example, Rashtrakutas, for example, Palas, for example, Gujjar Pratihars, their rulers have become very important. क्योंकि इन्हीं के टाइम पे क्या हुआ था? ट्राइपार्टाइट स्ट्रगल. right? We are talking about the time period from 9th to 10th century, or let's say middle of the 8th century, right? So which all dynasties were existing? So that's how now UPSC is asking questions in medieval. Terminologies, as I told you, is a very important aspect. Now, what kind of terminologies? Are you supposed to remember each and every term? Do you have to make it very factual? Is UPSC checking your factual knowledge? Again, the answer is no. Just to give you an example, let's say, why do they pick up certain terms in certain phases? When we talk about, let's say, Sangam period, how do we get the information about Sangam period? Obviously, through Sangam literature. When we know that we get the information from Sangam literature only, then that means the nature of the poems or the literature becomes important. Hana? So that means Sangam literature is of two kinds broadly. The poems have two kinds of themes in them. Akkam and Puram. Matlab love and war theme. When we've got to know that there is a war theme, right? So matlab, how do you say that there was a war theme which was very much emphasized in Sangam literature? So that's why UPSC asked a question in prelims on Vatta Kirutal, which was a kind of a ritual suicide, done by the ruler who got defeated at the hands of the enemy. Even his soldiers who accompanied him used to perform this suicide. तो वो यही पूछेंगे ना, right? So what I mean to say is that please understand the nature of the subject. Why things have been done, why things have been emphasized, why in some dynasty certain themes are asked, certain terms are asked, certain significant places are asked, why certain rulers' contributions are asked, why certain dynasties are emphasized, what is the characteristic feature in each of the dynasties which defines their character, which defines their nature. Some dynasties were imperial, some were not. Why? That depends on the ruler. So that's what you have to understand. Now, let's understand what are the recurrent themes in art and culture on the basis of last 10 years. Obviously, one cannot do culture without doing Buddhism and Jainism because this section has been overemphasized by UPSC in prelims questions, right? Similarly, literature becomes an important theme again here because of the source of information which we get from literature, right? Paintings, architecture, dance and music. In dance and music, you have to give more focus on classical dance and classical music. You have to give more focus on the entries or the traditions which are inscribed in the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. So here, UNESCO becomes very important aspect in culture, right? GI tags become important. Important places again, important temples, important caves, stupas, which gives us and reveals us our rich cultural heritage. They all become important. In literature, they focus more on Sangam literature. In literature, they focus on those dynasties whose rulers themselves were great scholars or learned men. They patronized scholars in their court, right? So those literary or the literatures would be asked, right? Now, is there any nature of or predictable themes and mains also, the way we have understood in prelims? So yes, definitely, we do have recurrent themes and patterns in mains. There is another revelation which I'll do for you through this session, and that is, do we only have to assume that only culture is asked in mains? No, I'll show you the examples of how in mains, despite of not mentioned in the syllabus, you get questions from ancient India. You do get questions from, medieval India. And why is this happening? Let's understand that. So first of all, we need to understand, is there any recurrent pattern in mains also? Yes, definitely. So in mains UPSC focuses on Buddhism, Jainism, Bhakti movement, architecture, literature, paintings. But from which perspective? Dynasties perspective. They give you dynasties and then they ask significant contribution in one or the other theme. Jaise, agar, let's say if Buddhism has been asked, they'll ask you the contribution of Pala dynasty in it. If literature is asked, they'll ask you the contribution of Krishna Devaraya. right? If architecture is asked, they'll give you Cholas, Pallavas, right? So there is this dynasty approach involved in culture means questions. Similarly, when you talk about broader aspects, there also we see main broad themes of Indian heritage and culture is being asked. Not only dynasty, broadly also evolution of architecture, culture, rock cut paintings could be asked. Let's see how questions look like one by one. So as I told you, Buddhism and Jainism is an important theme not only in prelims but also in mains. So what they have asked, Buddhist two-part. This is a pure culture question where you are required to not tell what are the architectural features, but how what they have asked here, whether you know the themes or the nature of stupa art or not, by asking you how the folk motives and narratives through stupa art we can say that they reflect Buddhist ideal. Broad question hai. Similarly, what have been the central and Greco-Bactrian elements in the Gandhar art? As I told you, these are dynasty-based question. This is a broad cultural question, right? Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism in India. Again, this is linked with dynasty. Now, coming to purely dynasty-based questions, how do they look like? So they give you Guptas and they ask you their numismatic art or coinage history. They give Gupta period, they give you Chola, and they ask the contributions in Indian heritage and culture, which is a broad topic. They give you again Cholas and they ask their contribution in art and architecture, right? Again, another example, as I told you, Krishnadev Raya, Vijayanagar dynasty, how he is, considered as an accomplished scholar as well as he patronized learning and literature in his court, right? What were the major technological changes that happened in Delhi Sultanate period is a dynasty based question, but पूछा क्या है? S&T, technological developments. Now this gives us an insight that we have to prepare in mains. Dynasties like Delhi Sultanate, which is part of your medieval Indian history, not only from the perspective of heritage and culture, but because in the syllabus it is mentioned heritage and culture. Heritage is a vast term, very broad term. Culture is a very broad term. Whatever technological changes happened had an impact on society, had an impact on economy. That's how the economy improved, society improved, politically they became more stronger, right? तो यही तो पूछा उन्होंने. So would you classify this in medieval or would you classify it in art and culture? It is your call. But the point is, don't have any misconception that in mains, art and culture, there is no question of medieval Indian history. Similarly, there has been in 2025 this year a direct question on Akbar's religious policy, right? So you do get medieval Indian history themes in your art and culture means, right? Then this is how your bhakti movement questions look like. They either ask you a contribution of a bhakti saint, like for example Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his contribution. You get a broad based question about the nature of the bhakti literature. Similarly, when you talk about art and architecture, from rock cut art paintings to features of Harappan architecture, they have also asked Chandel sculptures in this year's mains examination. So what message should you draw? What insight you should draw? That do you have to do culture from the perspective कि हाँ मुझे समझ में आ गया what is culture, what is architecture? No, you have to have specific examples of how sculptures have developed in significant dynasties or time period. If you are doing sculpture, you cannot do it without Chandels, Khajuraho sculptures. That's what UPSC is expecting out of you, right? Similarly, literature. Persian literary sources ही क्यों पूछा in medieval India? Because in medieval India, Persian was the court language. So if you're not preparing it like this, you are, creating those loose ends and gaps which will always haunt you in this preparation. So make it more foolproof. Make it safe for yourself, right? Ancient India. Do you not get questions from ancient India in mains? You do get. So the point is that in culture, don't have any notion of such kind. I only need to prepare culture. You also have to prepare culture from ancient to modern times. अब एंशियंट इंडिया से हाउ डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस आर आस्क्ड. Explain the role of geographical factors toward the development of ancient India. It has nothing to do with culture. Still a question has been asked. This is a direct question of an NCERT also. Main features of Vedic society and religion. Do you think that some of the features are still prevailing in Indian society? Had the syllabus not mentioned from ancient to modern times, you would not have been given such questions. So what examiner wants to test, that are you able to see any cultural feature in today's times or not, which have been our legacy and heritage since generations, right? Underline the changes in the field of society. Again, Vedic period se question aaya hai. So Vedic period has become all the more important, right? There have been broad-based questions also in main. So for example, there has been a question, discuss the significance of lion and bull figures in Indian mythology, art and architecture. Now this is again a very broad question. You do not get a question or answer to such question in one page or in one chapter or in one book. This again tests your linkability, interrelation, interdisciplinary approach. How? So for example, lion as a motif you see in Harappan art, seals, right? Lion, bull as a motive you see in Vedic religion as well, right? Lion, bull motive you see in Buddhist culture as well, right? So if you see, let's say if I give you another example, Mauryas, you see lion capital, bull capital, right? So this again tests how you have understood culture. Not only this, it has a current affairs link also to it. So you must have, you must be knowing about Central Vista project, the new parliament building, right? So during the construction of new parliament building, there was this controversy regarding the how the face of the lions were, depicted, right? So that's how probably the lion would have come in news. And also there have been gifts sent by the prime minister or given by the prime minister when any foreign dignitary comes, right? So this bull Nandi themed Dokra art was presented by the government, Indian government, to Argentina's president, right? So when we come across such news like these, we understand that certain animals have been part of our Indian culture and heritage. ठीक है, तो उसी basis पे they have asked questions. So there are broad-based questions also which have directly or indirectly link with current affairs. Now coming to talk about link with current affairs, that suggests that not only in mains but in prelims also, we need to integrate our historical knowledge with current affairs. And that is how UPSC is asking questions nowadays. Like for example, Chauset Yogini Temple. Why all of a sudden Chauset Yogini Temple was asked? Because again, of the new parliament building design. Our old parliament building was inspired from the circular temple which we saw here, right? तो उन्होंने पूछा क्या? That it is the only circular temple built in India. ऐसा हो सकता है that it is the only circular temple? No. Now what inference do you take from such questions? That sometimes UPSC also gives you in the question link of current affairs. So the fourth statement is its design has given rise to a popular belief that it was the inspiration behind the Indian Parliament building. ठीक है, तो अब examiner has given you a link, a hint that I have asked this question based upon the articles that was coming. So now when you are preparing ancient, medieval and culture, if any article comes which gives you an historical insight, it reveals you that it has to do something with culture, you have to make a note out of it. Do the static aspect, because there are two types of questions in current affairs nowadays which are asked by UPSC. One is your direct current affairs questions and one is inspired current affairs question. Direct current affairs questions look like these, wherein they give you a statement which has some current affairs element. Direct current affairs questions are those questions where, let's say, UNESCO may recently any site has been included, any tradition has been included in either World Heritage Site or Intangible Cultural Heritage Site. That is an example of direct current affairs question. But how do the inspired current affairs questions look like, where they ask you only static? So for example, here They have given you a hint that the world's second tallest statue in sitting pose of Ramanuj was inaugurated by the Prime Minister of India at Hyderabad recently. Which one of the following statements correctly represents the teachings of Ramanuj? तो teachings पे पूछा है, current affairs पे नहीं पूछा. So this is static, inspired from current affairs, right? Similarly, another example, direct current affairs question, because Dholavira received UNESCO's World Heritage Site status, they asked you about Dholavira without mentioning that why they are asking, right? So such kinds of direct current affairs questions do come. So for example, how many of the above properties were included in 2023? Direct current affairs question, recent inclusions kya hue hain, right? So this is what you have to understand. Then there is another dimension to current affairs. One is current affairs mein hona chahiye. Second, if any newspaper has dedicated its article to some historical legacy, some historical personality, randomly it has come, right? So then also sometimes questions are answered from those articles. So for example, there was this question on Mia Tansen, right? Now there has been an article in the Hindu in the year, let's say, this question was asked in 2018 and there was this article in 2018 only in the Hindu. Directly, there was the title Legend of Mia Tansen, and it started with why Tansen was given and who gave the title Mia, right? And this is how the question was framed. Yahi line or statement is incorrect. Tansen was the title given to him by Emperor Akbar, right? So what I want to tell you by showing you this question is that sometimes newspaper reading is more important also on relevant still, because sometimes questions do come from the articles, nothing to do with current affairs, just the coverage of it, right? Sometimes again, let's say if any airport, any railway station has dedicated its wall for the creation or beautification, like paintings have been done, any sculpture has been installed, so those aspects are also asked. So for example, Bani Dhani belongs to which school? Nothing to say that, Bani Dhani is not important in its own merit, but there have been news coming, or there was a news that Bani Dhani paintings are now welcoming passengers to Kishangarh Airport. Coincidence kya hai? It could be coincidence, or probably it has inspired the paper setter to frame a question on Bani Dhani in the same year. Because when this news came next year or that year, the question came, right? So this is what you have to do. Random articles on Sujani embroidery, UPSC paper setter asking question on Sujani embroidery, right? So newspaper reading is also very important. Cultural places, traditions, GI tags, they are important themes from the perspective of current affairs and culture. Now, what are the sources to be referred in this subject? The most sought after question. So when it comes to ancient Indian history, NCRTs as well as medieval Indian history or culture, NCRTs remain the backbone. Once and for all, you have to put this thing in your mind very clear that NCRTs is what you would target. Which class NCRT? So when it comes to ancient India, the old NCRT class 11, right? New NCRT class 12, themes in Indian history part 1. And then you should always focus and try to find out information on the previous year questions which have been asked by UPSC. There is on a Vision IS platform, 10-year analysis uploaded. You can refer that. You will get to know the source. You will get to know the other facts regarding the different options also. So in history, even the wrong options need to be considered as a topic for the future, need to be considered from the perspective of seeking knowledge. Why UPSC paper setter would give a wrong option of that kind only? That means it must be having some historical importance. Okay? So even in wrong options, even in the options given, you need to understand that they can be a potent or important question for next year or in future, right? For medieval Indian history, you have again these two sources. One is History of Medieval India, Satish Chandra, right? You have Themes in Indian History Part 2, which is your new NCRT, right? When it comes to Medieval Indian History Part 2. The Travelers chapter is very, very important. Vijayanagar chapter is very, very important. When it comes to art and culture, the most trickiest subject, the most lengthy one, what all sources, because whatever we have seen from the analysis of previous 20, 30 years of art and culture, there are different sources being used by UPSC. So what are those sources? Again, NCRTs remain the backbone. There is Introduction to Indian Art Part 1, which is class 11. There is this new NCRT which is released 3-4 months back, which is Knowledge, Traditions and Practices of India Part 1, class 11. You can download it from NCRT website, or you can get hold of it from any online platform, right? Then you need to understand what all things or contents or chapters each book has, right? What we have seen is that there have been direct questions from these NCRTs, right? There is again another book, Introduction to Indian Art Part 2, which is class 12th. This is Part 2, different from Part 1, is a book dedicated on paintings only, right? So you don't need to go anywhere if you want to know the conceptual or historical perspective on paintings. From the point of view of current affairs, GI tags, etc., you can refer PT 365, right? This new NCRT, as I told you, is very, very important because of the topics it has. So it has language and literature, it has Indian philosophy, which you do not get in your regular NCRT. So that's why this book is important, right? There is another source which is known as CCRT website, ccrtindia.gov.in, which is very, very helpful for your mains answer writing. Why? Why am I saying this? Because it gives you that organic and evolutionary format on how things or cultural developments have taken place. So for example, when you talk about literature, right? So from ancient Indian literature, you have Puranas, you have Sanskrit literature, you have literature in regional languages, you have Dravidian literature, you have medieval literature, you have modern literature. So you get a perspective that from ancient to modern times, how literature has evolved, right? So this evolutionary format in which the content is given gives you a major overview on the topics as prescribed by UPSC in its syllabus, in its own wordings. Similarly, when you talk about architecture, just see how they have given Indus civilization, Buddhist architecture, modern architecture, right? So from ancient to modern times, how the architecture has evolved. This year you got a direct question from Indus Valley or Harappan civilization architecture. Similarly, sculpture kaise evolve hua hai? How Indian paintings have evolved from ancient to modern times. So I feel that this is a very important source which you all can refer to have a broader understanding of cultural developments from ancient to modern times, right? So this is what you can refer. Another evidence which I want to give you of why NCRTs are still important. I'm not saying that beyond NCRT or without NCRTs you cannot clear. No. But because directly there have been questions picked up from NCRT, not only on the basis of content which is mentioned over there, sometimes description, boxes, maps directly given in NCRTs inspires a paper setter to ask question. So just to give you an example, there was this question on foreign travelers who has discussed about diamond mines. This was a direct question in your themes in Indian history part 2, right? Similarly, so when the table is given of the travelers, they can ask you question. Another example I would like to give you, that there are questions on rock edicts. Now, there is a map given in your NCRT which mentions these rock edicts, right? From where again you can solve the question. There is another example which I would like to give you. There was a question in 2023 on Dhanya Katak, which is nowhere mentioned in your regular books prescribed by for UPSC preparation. But this Dhanya Katak was mentioned in your NCRT, one of the maps. So that's why NCRT's maps, boxes, pictures, whenever it gives you description, they become very, very important. Not only from prelims point of view, even the NCRTs can be used for mains question answer writing. And how? So at the back of your NCRT chapters, you get very simple questions. Try to practice them. For example, There has been a question directly from NCERT, as I told you, how geographical factors shaped ancient Indian history, right? So such questions you can get at the back of the chapters. Just to give you an example again, let's say Harappan cities, how were the Harappan cities planned? This year they have asked question on the architectural features of Harappan city. Had you been, had you practiced this question before, you would have again written better organized answers. Okay, so you do get good quality mains questions from the back of the NCERT chapters, and this is what you should practice. Don't forget, NCERTs remain your backbone. Next, there is another source from which UPSC asks question, and that is your History of Ancient and Early Medieval India by Upinder Singh. Now, how you have to use this book? Very selectively, right? Again, based on whatever themes have been picked up by UPSC. Let's say when you talk about ancient India, Guptas, Mauryas, Indus Valley, pick out the terms, just check the maps here and there, and make your short notes. This is how I would advise you to do this book. I'm not saying that you do this book cover to cover. Just the facts which you've not found in your NCERTs, and that too of the most important recurrent themes. You need not cover this book wholly for your GS preparation, right? Because there have been direct questions. So let's say there was this question on Sangam literature, right? So all the content from which even the wrong statements were made, they were all picked up from Upinder Singh's book, right? So there is an evidence, there is a reason why am I suggesting you this book to be not let go of from your mind or hands, because this book is used by UPSC. Okay, so the book is important. Now coming to understand how to prepare the timeline, right? Many students also face problem in memorizing the timeline, and they also don't know how to do it, from where to do it. There are two strategies which I am suggesting to you to prepare the timeline. One is, see the index of your NCERTs. The index is mentioned in a timeline manner. पहले आएगा आपका स्टोन एज, फिर आएगा आपका हरप्पन सिविलाइजेशन, देन योर वैदिक एज, then later Vedic, then Jainism and Buddhism, then Magadhan age, then Iranian and Macedonian invasion. So it comes in a format, timeline format. On daily basis, for 2 minutes, have a look. If you'll do it for 30 days, 40 days, timeline would be there in your mind. Another way is that, as I told you, there is this 10 years analysis on Vision IS website on ancient, medieval, and culture. There you get the timeline with some pictures, with more precise time. That can also be used as a source to prepare timeline. Why? And because of what am I suggesting this to you? Because it also gives you some characteristic features. When you associate a time period with some characteristic feature, you better understand it. है ना? जैसे for example, middle stone age or mesolithic period is characterized by development of mesolithic or microlithic tools. Microlithic tools, mesolithic phase, this is what would be there in your mind, right? Neolithic period mein you see settled agricultural communities, right? So you base your understanding on the basis of picture, on the basis of characteristic feature. That will also help you in preparing this timeline, right? So this you can use it for your ancient, medieval, and culture for exact source, for exact timeline and understanding of key features, right? Now, how do you synthesize so much of material? How do you synthesize so much of content and ancient medieval culture together? The best approach should be that in every dynasty, you do its political history, you do its economic history, you do its religious history, you do the cultural developments. Don't segregate culture and in isolation you are doing ancient medieval. Unless and until you do not have idea of how the ruler was, what kind of philosophy he was having, you will never understand why a certain kind of ruler gave more importance to temple architecture. Again, just to give you an example. So, Vijayanagar Empire, or let's say Imperial Cholas, right? So when Imperial Cholas rose under Vijayalaya, he wanted that divine kingship to be accepted? How would he be accepted as a king till the time he's not, formalizing his rule, till the time he's not making it divine, right? That's why Chola emperors, basically in imperial times and medieval times, emphasized on temple architecture or construction of temples. So this synthesis is required. Next level of synthesis is obviously required in your sources. You integrate your static NCRT knowledge with whatever developments you are coming across in current affairs, right? So this is how you make a blend of all these resources. When it comes to mains, pick CCRT. When it comes to prelims, pick NCRT and integrate it with your current affairs knowledge. For current affairs, in January month, PT 365 booklets would come integrated with current affairs. Along with this, newspaper may, if you're getting articles related to culture, history, ancient medieval, then integrate them, right? Have a more comparative study approach. Key, how were Mauryas, how were Guptas, how were they different from Sangam Cholas, how was Sangam Cholas different from North Indian dynasties, right? So have that comparison with respect to the different dynasties of different region. Secondly, there has to be a chronological understanding, comparison again of different dynasties. You should have cross-cultural comparisons also. Just say, for example, if any invasions have happened, let's say Macedonian invasions have happened, right? So what cultural impact did they leave? So all of this will make your preparation for ancient medieval and culture very good, right? Obviously, because this is a factual subject and you have to synthesize a lot specifically for mains, if not prelims, right? You can make your short notes according to what has syllabus prescribed. So for example, if you come to think of it that I have to make a very broad understanding of architecture, so pick from Indus Valley till modern times how the architecture has evolved. Indus Valley में architecture कैसा था? Mauryas के time पे there was rock aqueducts, palaces. Guptas के time पे more emphasis was given on Nagra style temple architecture, right? Then regional architectures developed. Indo-Islamic architecture आया, in medieval times Mughal architecture आया, in modern times colonial architecture, right? Forts were built, ports were built, right? So have a very macro view of the developments that have happened, right? So this will make your note making very strategic and precise and useful for the mains preparation and overall understanding, right? Make use of visual memory aids, make flowchart, arrows, right? Maps to help you in mains more, right? Be updated with current affairs. So this is what you can do for understanding and preparing ancient, medieval and culture. Now, what are the takeaways? What do we learn from all of this? Stay basic, stay fundamental, stick to your NCRTs. Now, the nature of the subject is that you require diverse information, in-depth information, at least not for every phase of history, for the recurrent themes. After we have identified कि हाँ ancient में Mauryas है, Guptas है, Indus Valley है, so you need to go further down in it, right? How would you go down and improve your knowledge? By practicing test series questions, because when you practice test series question, you also get your hands on the explanations. Now in this subject, explanations become your another source of information, right? So that ways, practicing more number of questions will give you extra knowledge, right? So prepare those important topics, prepare it chronologically and stay updated. That is what you can do in this subject, right? So all the very best, guys. Make your understanding the way we have discussed and you will really benefit out of it. So all the best, guys. Have a nice day.